Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, giving me a chance here to talk to you a little bit about Nebula, Zycel's cloud managed network offering. Before we jump into the presentation, we'll do a little bit here of housekeeping. To begin with, if you have any questions as we go through today, please use the Q&A box to submit your questions. I will get to those questions at the end of the presentation and answer those. I just wanted to highlight here some of the goodies. So everybody who joins today's webinar and sits through at least most of it, you're getting a Amazon gift card for a few bucks and entered into a contest to win a $1,000 Amazon gift card. Everybody who attends today gets a copy of Managed Services in a Month, a physical book, not an ebook, but the actual physical book here from Carl Palachek. Going through, how to become an MSP, some MSP best practices. So even if you already consider yourself an MSP, might be a good book to look through to get some ideas and some best practices or some things you might be overlooking. And then at the end, if you join our partner program, you can get a Nebula demo kit. That's an access point, PoE switch, and security gateway. You get all three of those sent to you so you can test out and play with Nebula yourself in person. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. I'm going to start with a little bit of background on who Zycel is. I'm fully aware that we are not a household name. So for some of you who have joined us this morning, you might not be too familiar with us. So right now, we've got 29 years of networking experience. We've been making networking products for 29 years now. Next year will be our 30th anniversary of making networking products. We have over 100 million devices that have been deployed in the field, and we serve 150 different global markets. We break our products down into three categories. The main category and space that we operate in is the telco and service provider side of things. And on that side of stuff, we're making CPE equipment, we're making metro area switches, as well as stuff like DSLAMs or MSANs. Then we've got our business products, which we sell into the channel through distribution. That covers your typical business stuff. And then we've got a small range of consumer products that are sold directly to the consumer. So Zycel itself, our main headquarters is based out of Taiwan. Our local U.S. office is based out of Anaheim, California. The U.S. office has our sales and marketing, has our tech support, and has our warehouse. So when you call in to get tech support, you are calling into our U.S. office. We don't outsource the support to a third-party call center or overseas. It's all done out of our offices here. We're really big on R&D. We are not just taking ODM or OEM products, slapping our name on it, making some minor changes to the GUI and shipping it out. We've got over 500 software and hardware engineers that help design and build our products and support them for us. Our main R&D facility is in Taiwan, but we also have a R&D facility in Santa Clara, California, and another one in Germany. So when we're looking at the business products, we break them down into a couple different categories. Security appliances, LAN switches, wireless networking, gateways, particularly hospitality or hotspot gateways, and then our network management. When it comes to our Nebula products, we fit basically each one of those categories. So for those of you who are a VAR, have heard, about a big movement towards becoming an MSP. What is an MSP? The term is used to describe a lot of different businesses and different types of business models. From our point of view, an MSP is a situation where you proactively manage your customer's IT infrastructure rather than waiting on them to call you for a bid or to call you because something broke. So the benefits of becoming an MSP: recurring revenue. Generally, you're going to be signing a contract with your customer for 3 to 5 years where they are paying you either on a monthly or quarterly basis to stay on top of their network, to stay on top of their computers, to stay on top of their software offerings, and make sure everything is always running smoothly. By going to this instead of a break-fix model, you get consistent and predictable cash flow each month. You're getting paid not just for the initial hardware purchase and installation and configuration, but for providing long-term support and maintenance to the network. You don't have to wait for something to break to get paid. And it helps you become a trusted advisor to your customers, rather than just a bid or somebody you deal with once every 6 months when you need to buy anything. And based on the feedback we get, MSPs tend to get a lot more referrals than your traditional break fix model. So talk a little bit about cloud trends. Cloud is something that goes hand in hand with a lot of MSP services that are being offered these days. So just some basics of what's going on when it comes to the cloud. Cloud managed wireless LAN infrastructure has grown 38%. Infrastructure and platform clouds were worth an estimated $32 billion last year. And 60% of enterprises will have at least half of their infrastructure on cloud platforms by the end of this year. One of the big benefits of moving to the cloud, a lot of people tend to think about, going from a capital expenditure to an operating expenditure, small monthly fees instead of paying annual fees. But the real big driver is actually security. Moving stuff to the cloud, you don't have to worry about having to manage firmware updates, manage patches. The cloud takes care of a lot of that. The cloud security is basically offloaded into whoever's managing the cloud or the cloud services provider. So just a little interesting thing there. So we'll talk a little bit about cloud managed networking, which Nebula offers. So basically the aims of cloud managed networking are to give you lower combined running costs, enabling you to work smarter and faster, anytime, anywhere access, built-in scalability, built-in redundancy, and increased security. So on typical hardware network install, you've got to purchase the equipment, you've got to purchase maintenance contracts, you've got to install the equipment, including any local configuration that needs to be done, which traditionally is quite a bit. Then you've got to figure out how you're going to monitor the equipment, whether you're using SNMP, syslog, other things. You're going to have to set up remote access, either through port forwarding or creating VPNs to your customer's site so you can get in and make configuration changes. You need to buy a monitoring platform or find a freeware monitoring platform, SolarWinds, Zabbix. Data storage, where are all those logs and things going to be stored at? And then you've got to figure out how to manage keeping your network patches and stuff up to date. If you're using multiple vendors, it might be a little bit more difficult. How are you doing your user and device management and authentication? So by moving it into the cloud, most of your cloud managed solutions, whether you're talking us, whether you're talking Meraki, help simplify this process, reducing the amount of man-hours you have to spend on the setup and configuration, and also just overall the amount of money that you're having to pay, particularly up front. So you purchase your equipment, you install the equipment. True cloud equipment like ours is pretty much plug and play. There's no local configuration that needs to be done. So you don't have to send somebody who's technically knowledgeable on site. Generally, the cloud is handling the monitoring for you, so you don't have to worry about setting up syslog and SNMP and things like that. Again, most of your cloud devices are going to dial into the cloud itself, so there's no need to set up VPNs or port forwarding to get remote access. No need to use something like SolarWinds, although a lot of cloud managed platforms like us will integrate or work via SNMP and syslog with something like SolarWinds. So if you've got a platform that you're already using, great, you can continue using it. Otherwise, if you don't, you're starting from scratch, generally the cloud provides a lot of that functionality. Again, no need for storage. Cloud is taking care of that storage for you for all those logs. Firmware updates are pushed out automatically. A lot of the changes that need to be done are done actually in the cloud itself, so no firmware needs to be pushed out in those cases. User device and authentication can be done in the cloud. So those are kind of the benefits of cloud managed networking. So now I want to start talking about Zycel solution, which is called Nebula. It's designed from the ground up to provide a single pane of glass to manage switches, gateways, access points, and to allow you basically to manage multiple customers and multiple sites under those customers. When we were designing it, putting the effort into how we laid things out, that's how we laid it out. We wanted to make it easy for somebody to keep an eye on what's going on, regardless of how many customers you have or how many individual sites each of those customers have that you're managing. So one of the big benefits with Nebula, you can set it up without unboxing. You can set up and configure things ahead of time. All of the devices, both the physical device itself and the box, have a QR code on them. Using our mobile app, you can scan in that QR code and assign it to a customer and a customer site without needing to take it out of the box. You can scan it in, assign it to your customer at your office, and then mail it out to your customer for them to plug in. Literally, setup takes just a few minutes to get everything online. For the hardware side of things, it's just plugging it in and making sure it can get DHCP and internet access. And that's all you need to do locally. Setting up Nebula itself, it's got some basic defaults that are already on there. I can go from scratch to everything up and running in about 5 minutes. The longest part of that is creating your Zycel account if you don't already have one. And Nebula gives you access to your customers and your networks anywhere you have access to a web browser. So the Nebula architecture itself, all of your network traffic and things like that are all handled locally and out to the internet just like before. The only thing that's going out to the cloud is the logs and the management traffic. We host this on Amazon AWS. We didn't try to create our own cloud in-house or do something weird like shards. We're using AWS. So our cloud platform should be basically just as reliable as Amazon Web Services is. We give you a 4 nines uptime guarantee. If the cloud goes down, if your customer's internet is severed or goes down for some reason, everything locally continues to work just like before. You just lose management access to the hardware itself until the internet connection or AWS comes back online. Even if we're talking, hours or days of downtime of the internet connection, everything will continue functioning just fine. And from a security side of things, again, rather than try to build this all in-house and come up with our own security methodology instead, we use the industry standard known as NetConf. And have built on top of that and used that for the security and handshaking involved. So the Nebula family itself is made up of a couple different components. We have what's called the Nebula Control Center. That's the cloud portion that provides you alerts, management, monitoring. And then we've got a series of dedicated Nebula hardware that you need to buy in order to use Nebula. On the security gateways, those are our NSG series of security gateways. On switches, it's our NSW series of switches. Then we've got our NAP series of access points and our mobile app for installers or just to keep an eye on what's going on. So the management console, we spent a lot of time on this, making sure it's something that you understand and are familiar with, and it's easy to just pick up and sort of get going. It makes it super easy to configure devices, manage your logs, monitor traffic statistics, bandwidth consumption, and things like that. So some of the features of the Nebula Control Center, we have built-in map integration. So you can use Google Maps and you can see where your customers are or where their offices are based on Google Maps. You can also drill into individual pieces of hardware at your customer locations. In addition to using Google Maps, you can also just scan in a floor plan, take a photo of a floor plan, upload it, and then position the equipment on that floor plan where they're installed. So that way, if somebody else, down the road needs to go on site and do something, it makes it easy for them to find where the hardware was installed that they need to get access to. We also automatically build a network topology of, which switches and which devices are plugged into which other devices. So that's generated automatically, nothing that you need to do. Just another tool that if you're doing some troubleshooting or sending someone who isn't familiar with the site out to do some work, they can quickly get an idea of what's going on the network. Firmware upgrades, those are pushed out automatically. So those are, we've got some flexibility on those. You can set different schedules based on the different type of device. You can set a regular schedule. You can force an update to happen at a certain time or force an update to happen right then and there. Role based on administration. So this is something that's pretty big in that we give you really granular control and multiple types of admin access that you can assign to different employees or different employees of your customer to give them access to certain things. So you can do it on a customer basis and say, hey, this person has admin access or read-only access to the entire organization, or you can give access on a site basis. We also have different roles. We have an installer role who can add a hardware to an individual site but can't do any configuration changes. We've got a guest ambassador role. So if you're doing a hospitality or you're doing, you want to control guest access, you can set it up so the person only has the ability to create new guest accounts for guests to log in. So maybe you'd give it to the receptionist, so the receptionist can create accounts and manage guests coming into your offices. We have what's called misconfiguration protection. Basically, when you apply and make different changes, we apply those changes in an intelligent order to make sure you don't lose access to things. I know it's fairly common. We've got a lot of people that have had this happen to them in the past where, you know, they're changing VLANs. They get the order that they're making the changes wrong, and suddenly some piece of hardware on the customer's network is no longer reachable because they did the VLAN in the wrong order. And Kevin just sent me a message here, and thank you for the typo correction. I'll get that fixed next time around. So anyway, so you don't have to worry about getting things done in the wrong order. We also have the ability to log every single configuration change that is made. So you can go back through and see who made the change and when the change was made to the config when troubleshooting things, or you need to basically you know, track something down and maybe educate one of your employees on something they did wrong, you can do that. As the owner of a site, you can set it up so you get email alerts anytime any of your admins go in and make changes, so you can keep an eye on things that way. We have built-in captive portal and guest network functionality. We've got a lot of flexibility with how the captive portal and the walled garden work. You know, we can do your basic click to continue, agree to terms of service. We can do authentication either against our own cloud database or pointing to a radius database that you want to have people do authenticate against. We have it set up so guests are required to create their own account to get onto the network, so they can create their own username and password. You can capture their email information before granting them internet access. We have Facebook login, so if you'd like to use Facebook instead, you can force people to log in with Facebook. You can plug in your API key from Facebook so you can gather all sorts of data that way. So really flexible with how you're doing it. We also have the ability to isolate and create a separate guest network without the need for VLANs. I know this comes up a lot. You know, you're setting up and replacing the wireless network, but the customer's already got switches and they don't want you messing with their switches, or they've got a gateway that's not VLAN friendly, but it comes from the service provider and they can't get rid of it. So we have the ability to go in there and limit guest access, prevent them from getting on your local network and accessing local network resources, even if you can't apply and set up VLANs on your customer network. When it comes to the captive portal, it's easily customizable. We make it easy in there to change the colors, upload your logo, change the text. If you're looking for a little bit more than that, you can go in, download the HTML and CSS files, modify them however you want, and then re-upload them back to the cloud where we'll host that. Or if you want to get really fancy, we can always point to an external hosted site that, and we'll give you the code that you need to cut and paste to interact with our cloud to do guest authentication. The Nebula mobile app, I've already touched on this briefly, but basically it's designed not so much for configuration, because it's configuring a network like this is really more complex and difficult than you want to do on a little 5 or 6 inch screen. So it's designed that'll let you see your customers, let you see the sites, let you see the health, what's going on. Its primarily tool, though, is for your installers to make it easy for them to install stuff. Again, we talked before about this QR code. So to add a device to a customer's site, all you need to do is scan in either the device itself or the box that the device is in and assign it to your customer on their site, and you're pretty much done there. As you're installing it, you can go ahead and take photos of where the hardware installation is, and those will be stored on the cloud. So again, you know, down the road, someone needs to go on site that's not familiar with the install, or you've just forgotten about it, you can pull it up on your phone and see exactly where that piece of hardware is that you're trying to locate. A lot of focus has been done on the user experience, particularly the guest Wi-Fi experience or just the mobile Wi-Fi experience. Dynamic channel selection, so you don't have to do site planning, and that's configurable. You can change the way that's applied, whether it's, you know, you can control how often it scans the RF environment to make changes, how often it will apply those changes. Load balancing, including a special mode just for classrooms, where you've got 40 people all coming online at the same time. Client steering, the ability to tweak when we'll kick clients from one access point to force them to roam if they're not roaming as fast as they should. So just also to touch here, Nebula itself is our cloud platform, our cloud hardware. All of our devices still use SNMP and still use syslog. So if you've already got a platform you like to use for your monitoring, you can keep using that. Nebula also, you know, works regardless of what other equipment is there. So if you're just putting in the access points, it'll still work just fine, even if they've got, you know, a legacy or another vendor's gateway and switches and things like that. It's just the Nebula portion only manages Nebula devices, but it works just fine with whichever other networking equipment you've already got on site. So again, just to hit on how easy installation is, it's a 3-step process, and these 3 steps can be done in any order. Plug in the Nebula device so it's got power and DHCP and internet access. Then you just simply log into a website and add the devices, or use our mobile app to scan the devices and add them to your customer, and then do your configuration in the cloud. So you can do those in any order. So you can set up and do your configuration, you know, weeks or months in advance before the actual local install is done. And scan those devices in before you ship them to the customer site. So whichever order you want to do, you can do it. So now we'll talk briefly about some of the individual types of hardware we've got. We'll start here with wireless. So our wireless hardware, all of our wireless hardware comes with a lifetime warranty. Oh, and the animation is not working on this. My apologies. The access point is supposed to expand so we can see the insides here. But we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort on the hardware, making sure it's built to last and perform. Some of the things we do: no electrolyte-based capacitors. We use only solid-state capacitors when capacitors are required. So, so there's no worry about the capacitor leaking or boiling over. We also spent a lot of time on the heat. When you're talking about solid-state components, the #1 cause of failure over time is heat fatigue. So our access points have a large, heavy heat sink. It's positioned behind the PCBA, which draws heat out of the PCBA and away from the solder and vents it out the top of the access point. Some of our competition doesn't have any heat vents at all, let alone a heat sink. We put a lot of extra shielding on the PCBA for EMI issues, just to get that extra, you know, 1 or 2 dB difference between the signal to noise ratio. Can mean all the difference in the world between no connection and slow but reliable connection. The antennas have reflectors behind them to help reflect the signal back that might miss the actual physical antenna, to give us a second chance at that. All of those are designed to give you really good performance and really long longevity, and at prices that are comparable to Ubiquiti. Our 3x311 AC retails for the same price as Ubiquiti's. But we're built to last, we're built to perform, and we've got a lifetime warranty versus a 1-year warranty. So on the access points we offer the NAP 102. That's our basic 11AC access point. We have our NAP203. The NAP203 has something kind of cool called a dual optimized antenna. So typically your traditional round, smoke detector type access points are optimized for being mounted on the ceiling. But as you all know, oftentimes you can't mount on the ceiling for whatever reason and need to mount on a wall. So traditionally when you do that, you end up shooting a lot of your signal up into the ceiling or into the floor. So we have the ability, both with a physical switch or a software-based switch in the cloud, can change the antenna configuration from a traditional ceiling mount configuration to a directional wall mount configuration. So that's on the NAP203. Our NAP303 offers smart antenna technology. If you've dealt with Ruckus, you're probably familiar with smart antenna and how it works. It goes through in basically real time hundreds of different antenna patterns for each individual client that optimize the antenna pattern just for that client based on where they physically are, but also based on where other sources of RF interference are coming from. It makes a dramatic difference in environments where there's a lot of RF interference or other sources of RF, such as an office building where you've got other networks surrounding you. You don't have access to control. It's also really good for high density deployments like concert venues, business conference rooms, concerts, things like that. And then we've got a really heavy-duty outdoor access point, our NAP353. It's IP66 rated to be both water and dust-proof. It's got a built-in heater for really cold environments. So if you need something heavy-duty, we've got that. But we also make a really inexpensive $40 outdoor enclosure that the NAP102 and NAP203 will fit in. Those help with airflow to help increase the temperature range, but they also make them rainproof. So you can mount them out in the elements where it gets rainy. But if you need really heavy duty, then you want to go to the NAP353. Switches, they're all the equivalent of what's considered a layer 2 switch. VLANs, QoS, we've got a built-in default VLAN specifically for VoIP networks to give them priority. Those come in both PoE and non-PoE versions, 8-port and 24-port with multiple gigabit uplinks. We also have 10 gig uplink versions. And for the PoE side of things, all of those are PoE plus. So 802.3 AT. And our cloud interface just makes it really easy to see what's going on your network, what's going on as far as bandwidth consumption and clients connected go, port-based VLAN and PoE control. So you can see here, just making it really easy to configure multiple ports at the same time. Simply choose the ports that you want to configure. And it'll pull up our configuration interface there where you can, enable things like STP, RSTP. You can choose what speed the links are operating at, set up a PoE schedule, set up your VLANs. On the security side of things, we have our NSG series of gateways. These are all ICSA certified firewall VPN appliances, designed particularly to make it easy to set up site-to-site VPNs between multiple sites, but it still supports things like L2TP over IPsec, so you can remote in or create remote VPNs from your iPads or iPhones out in the field. The security gateways, in addition to the traditional firewall rules you expect, they also offer intrusion detection and prevention and what we call application patrol. So application patrol, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself here. So site-to-site VPN configuration. Go into your VPN configuration, choose whether you want site-to-site or hub-to-spoke. Choose whether we need to, which one's going to be the main gateway, whether you need to do NAT traversal, choose your sites, and basically it's done. On the layer 3 firewall side of things here, we were talking about the app patrol. So traditionally, when you're making your firewall rules, you're making those, you need to know, what protocols being used, IP addresses, what ports are being used, things like that. So we make it easy by allowing you to set up your firewall rules based on internet applications. So you can go in, set up a profile, click Add Application, and we've got, I forget how many 100 different common web apps you can select from. And for a lot of these, you can get really granular access to things, such as for Flickr, you can give access to be able to view photos on Flickr, but not be able to log in or not be able to upload media to it. Same goes for Facebook. You can control Facebook rules. You can disable like buttons. So those get disabled and blocked at the firewall rule. You can allow people access to log into Facebook, but you can block the ability to chat or upload media from your network. So a real easy way to set up a lot of application-based rules going through your firewall. The one big shortage right now on our NSG gateways is they do not offer content filtering. That will be changing here in a couple months. We'll be rolling that out as an upgrade here this summer. There will be a subscription fee for the content filtering services, but the ability to do that will be added for free here going forwards. So we get a lot of questions asking about, can we use the cloud for this application or that application? And the answer is yes. We've been certified for both privacy and use in a lot of different areas. We're HIPAA compliant. We meet all the really strict EU privacy rules, as well as a bunch of other ones out there. So yeah, no problems as far as privacy or security goes, and certification, getting it approved to be used. So let's talk a little bit about licensing, because this is something we do different, especially if you're used to using like Meraki. Nebula management platform is free for the life of the product. And then we also offer what's called the professional pack, which gives you some extra features that we'll talk about here in a second. All of our Nebula dedicated hardware, so that's the NAP access points, the NSW switches, the NSG gateway, they all come with 1 year of Nebula Pro Pack out of the box on activation. So when you buy the hardware, you don't have to buy the hardware and 1 year of license or whatever license is already included on those. We do have something that we just recently launched called Nebula Flex. At the moment, this applies to our NWA 1000 series access points. It'll be coming to some switches in the fall or maybe late summer. And that allows non-dedicated Nebula equipment to also be managed with Nebula. Those do not include any of the Pro Pack. Those will work out of the box with the free Nebula, and then you can buy the license if you need Pro Pack for those. But if you're buying the dedicated Nebula hardware, all of that hardware comes with 1 year of the Pro Pack out of the box. Going forward, the professional pack is offered either as an annual license or it's offered as a perpetual license. So if you know you want the Pro Pack features and you know you're not going to be, you don't want to deal with annual renewals, you can buy a one-time license that gets you perpetual Pro Pack. It is not locked to the hardware, it is locked to the customer organization. So you just buy a certain number of access points, a certain number of switches, and that number of access points and switches will always be able to be managed using the Pro Pack features. So even if you swap out the hardware, so if you decide to upgrade from an 8-port to a 24-port switch, or you decide to replace their access points with whatever the latest and greatest wireless technology is at the time, you won't have to repurchase licenses. So the differences between free and the paid, both of them have unlimited numbers of device management. There is not a cap. There's not, 100 device cap or anything like that. It's a limited number of devices. All of them use the app. All of them have the plug and play installation and get you firmware updates. So where we start to see some of the differences is when it comes to the logging. The Pro Pack gives you a year's worth of logs that are stored in the cloud that you can go back through. The free version only gives you 7 days worth. We have the ability to generate reports and have those emailed to you on your schedule or to your customer on your schedule. That's a Pro Pack only feature. When it comes to our cloud authentication database, there's only 100 entries allowed in the free version, where the paid or the Pro Pack gives you unlimited number of entries into that authentication database. However, if you're using your own Radius database, it doesn't really matter. You just point them to your Radius database. When it comes to admin accounts, you get 5 with the free version, and you get an unlimited number of admin accounts with the Pro Pack. Some of the other things, the user audit or change logs and notifications, that's only a Pro Pack feature. Getting notifications when a device goes down, that's a ProPack only feature. The automatic topology generation, that's a ProPack feature. The ability to clone existing organizations or existing sites, that's a ProPack feature. So for a lot of you, the free version is more than enough. It gives you full access to configuration, as many customers as you want, as many devices as you want. But if you want these little extra features, you want to be more proactive when it comes to managing your customer networks, then you probably want to go up to the professional pack. From a cost perspective, 1 year of the access point is around $30. So versus like Meraki, which is 150, I think, to 200, depending on what pricing you're looking at. Or even if you go to Ubiquiti's Elite service, Ubiquiti's Elite service is more than that. Switches, regardless of the number of ports, I believe is $35, and then the security gateway is $50 for the ProPack. We will also be rolling out more ProPack functionality and features later on in the year. So I got ahead of myself. So as we talked about before, if you buy the dedicated Nebula hardware, it comes with 1 year of ProPack out of the box. And you just activate the device and that automatically gets applied. If you buy our NWA 1100 or 1300 access points, those do not include the ProPack. And when we come out with the GS1930 series switches, those will not include the ProPack. So another thing we do here, which is different than some of our competition, is that we have everything on the licenses expire at the same time. So in this example here, you've bought yourself some access points. You bought 10 of them, and then 6 months down the road, the customer decides to expand their wireless network, and you add some additional access points. What happens is we convert those licenses from annual into a point system, and then the point system is applied across the site. So that way, instead of things expiring, whoops, apologies, went the wrong direction there. So instead of things, having to manage multiple expiration dates, everything will expire at the same time. We give you a nice, easy to use license management screen, which lets you see what devices are registered to that customer, when everything is going to expire. And then we also give you a calculator. So if you want to change that expiration date, and let's say you want everything to expire, on the last day of Q2 of the year, or you want everything to expire on the 15th of the month, you can put in that date, and it'll tell you how many points you need to purchase from us. Points are roughly $1 per point to make everything expire at that date and time that you want it to expire. And again, if it expires, it goes from the ProPack back to the free version. Free is good for the life of the product. So some quick comparisons between us and some of our competitors out there. I think you're probably familiar with most of them, Meraki, Aerohive. On the Ubiquiti side of things, on this comparison, we're comparing with their Elite controller, which is more like Nebula or Meraki rather than their cloud-hosted Java controller. So a little bit different pricing and functionality than the cheaper or free solution that they offer. So plug-and-play installations, we offer it, Meraki offers it, Ubiquiti doesn't. License co-termination, where all your licenses expire at the same time. Only us and Meraki offer that. Lifetime license or perpetual license, it's something only we are offering. So when the network expires, as I mentioned, you don't lose the access to manage your customers and your networks. It just switches over to our free version. Unlike, I think, Meraki, where they lock you out of the management functionality, although the network keeps operating. That automated generated topology view, us and Meraki offer that. The configuration change logs, it's just us and Meraki. The IDP ability in the application type control, it's just us and Meraki again. Ability to upload photos of where you've installed the devices, again, just us and Meraki. When it comes to logs, we're offering 1 year of logs. So that's us, Meraki, or like Aruba and Aerohive don't offer that. Ruckus doesn't offer that. So that's a quick comparison there, just in a nutshell for you. So I want to talk here really quick about our partner program. please join our partner program. When you join our partner program, it gets you access to bid support, the ability to do deal registration, gives you priority access and after hours access to our customer support phone number, gets you automatic discounts through distribution. So you join our partner program, you get some additional discounts. We'll load those up at distribution, and those will automatically be applied. Also getting, you sign up, you get regular email newsletters from us, technical updates, technical and sales webinars, access to our history of sales webinars. We've also, we're working with D&H, Ingram Micro, Synex, and Wave. Whoops, there we go. Oh, slide got messed up. So the partner program, we have bronze, silver, and gold is being covered up here on the slide. I apologize. Anybody that joins up from this webinar will automatically be put in at the silver tier. Silver tier gets you an 18% discount through distribution. And then to maintain the silver level, we'll reevaluate you in 6 months, and you need to have had $6,000 in sales in those 6 months. So it's a really low goal to need to be able to hit. The gold level is a 20% discount, and for that you need to hit $12,000 in sales in half a year. In addition to a little bit bigger discount there, it also gets you access to lead referral and priority access to our sales engineer, and free advanced replacement. We also work with a company called Leaf Financial. Obviously, they're doing financing services and leasing services. Obviously, if you have somebody else you prefer to use for financing, that's fine. But Leaf is somebody who we work with really smoothly, and we've got a nice system in place with them. So they make it really easy to do 100% financing of customer hardware networks. So, if you're not charging your customer for the hardware, but you need to buy the hardware and recoup it in, over annual fees or monthly fees, that helps free up that revenue for you. If you're looking at doing leasing, you can do that through Leaf, and Leaf will actually handle and take over the lease. So Leaf becomes responsible for collecting the lease payments, enforcing the lease, getting the hardware back at the end of the lease. So if you want to do leasing, Leaf's a great one to work with for that. So to become a partner, it's really super simple. Go to Zicel.com. On the top right of the screen, click on Partners. Under that, click on Channel Partner Program. That'll pull up our Channel Partner Program page. And then you want to click on Become a Partner there in the sort of the middle of the page. It's kind of a weird place for it. So people sometimes overlook that. So it's on the yellow band in the middle of the page. Click on Become a Partner, fill out the form, and we'll review it and approve or decline it within 48 hours, or 2 business days, I guess. Pretty simple process. Just be sure to put in your distribution account number so we can load up your discounts at distribution. So now when it comes to Nebula itself, just go to nebula.zicel.com. At the bottom right of the screen, there will be a button that says Live Demo. Click Live Demo, log in, and you've got full access to a site, or a simulated site of a couple different small motels. Those are actually live user data, I believe, although you can't change anything, but you'll be able to get full access to all the different configuration screens and stuff like that. So you can see what that looks like. But more importantly, sign up for our partner program, and we'll give you a 60-day demo kit, which includes an access point, a PoE switch, and one of our security gateways. So you can set this up and play with it yourself. I really recommend getting your hands on it. We've had really good luck with people who have actually taken the time to actually use the equipment, have been very, very happy with it. Cost-wise, we're neck and neck with Ubiquiti on a lot of this, but with a lifetime warranty, but with local phone and sales support, and then free cloud. Dramatic cost savings versus something like Meraki. Very similar functionality, similar uptime, similar user interface. So that is it for my slides. I will now start taking questions. Daniel is asking for a copy of the presentation. Yeah. How should we do that? Sign up with the partner program. even if you're not going to buy the stuff. And you'll get put in touch with one of your salespeople, probably Sandra or David, and you can ask them, and they can provide you a link to the to this. I also think a recording of this is being saved on the partner portal. So once you've signed up as a partner, you can log into the partner portal and watch your recordings. So Daniel's also asking, is Nebula a good solution for residential smart homes? It's not really designed for homes. You could certainly use it if you want to manage the wireless there. The hardware is probably more, well, the low-end NSG might be okay for a home router, but it's not really designed for that. It's designed more for business networks and being able to manage, multiple customers, multiple sites under those. Could it be used for home? Sure. Let's see here. Matthew, do we have any 48-port switches? Currently, there are no 48-port switches, just the 24-port switches. I know that eats up space in the rack, but otherwise, managing your switches, you just stack them. They're all managed through that same unified interface. So from a management side of things, it really doesn't make any difference, but I understand if you're trying to save the rack space. But not currently, we haven't currently announced any 48-port switches. And then you're asking about LLDP MED options. And I honestly don't know the answer to that. It's not something I'm familiar with. Our switch product manager might be more involved, but I don't know the answer. And I do not have an easy way to look that up for you really quick. But go ahead if you want. You can email me, Sean R, SHAWNR @Zicel.com. I do know when it comes to the switches, we have built-in VoIP QoS. We have a special profile set up, so you don't have to manually configure things. I'm not sure if that covers what you're asking about, though. Any plans? This is from Daniel asking about if we have any plans for a layer 3 switch. Right now, it's all just layer 2 functionality on the switches. I think a lot of this is assuming that it's a smaller network and that you're using a dedicated gateway rather than some big network with layer 3 switch required. So no, I don't think we've got any plans currently, at least not that we've announced for layer 3. Kevin is asking if the email reports are brandable, and the answer is yes, at least partially. You can go in there and you can upload your logo, so when the reports get emailed out, it includes your logo. So yeah, that is done and doable with those email reports. Another question here asking if the intrusion detection is free. So no, it does require a separate license. You get 1 year out of the box with the NSG, just like you do with the Pro Pack. But then going forward, any sort of UTM functionality is going to be a separate UTM license that you would need to purchase. P. Cook here is asking about you had some trouble joining the meeting, missed the first part. Again, go to Zicel.com, sign up for the partner program, and your salesperson can provide the slides for you, or you can try emailing me, and I can probably send those out, although we'd probably prefer it if you go work through sales. But my email is Sean R, Sean spelled SHAWN, then the letter R @Zicel.com. And I can send you a link. I can also probably send you a link to a recording of this webinar. The first part of the webinar, we were just sort of talking about who Zicel is, our background, because we know a lot of people aren't that familiar with us. We've been doing this for 29 years. Our main area that we play in historically is the large ISP or telephone service provider market with like metro area switches, DSLAMs, NSANs, CPE, things like that. But yeah, we can definitely get those sent to you if you want them. If anyone else has any questions, again, use the Q&A window, not the chat box, but Q&A, and I will try to answer them for you. But if not, for anybody else, who's leaving, thank you for joining us. Check out that free demo, the demo that we've got online, or register for our partner program and get a demo kit sent out to you that you can play with. You're asking about the partner program. That is a question for your salesperson, but I believe everybody was automatically put into the silver program already when we converted to the new program. But your salesperson would have a better answer for that. I'm not that up on the intimate details of how the partner program works. We have some clients. This is from Anonymous using Domots. I am not familiar with Domots. Let me see what Domots is here real quick. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Domots, but as long as it works using SNMP and or syslog, it should work just fine with keeping an eye on the Nebula switches and stuff. But I'm not familiar enough with Domots to tell you for sure that it'll work. But as long as it's using SNMP and doesn't require its own, specialty agent or something like that, it should work just fine. Any other questions from anybody? Again, use the Q&A window, type those up. I'll stick around for a few more minutes. But otherwise, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving me an hour of your time to talk about Nebula. We've been selling this now for almost a year and a half. We're constantly improving it, constantly rolling out updates and new feature enhancements for it. But we've had really good luck with those who have tested it and tried it in person. So I'd really love it if you guys could get yourself a demo kit, or at the very least log into our live demo and give it a shot. It's an amazing value right now in the market compared to our competition. Even if you're comparing us to somebody like Ubiquity, the 3-year total cost of ownership with us versus the Elite Cloud service, we come out cheaper. Daniel is asking, is there an NFR program? And there is an NFR program that partners get access to. Absolutely. And then also on this demo equipment, the 60-day demo, probably shouldn't be saying it, but if you need more than 60 days or you've got something that you're working on and need the demo, we can probably extend it, or we can probably turn it into an NFR if you want to keep the equipment, no problem. Okay, so Chris is answering the question from earlier about Domots. I hope I'm saying that right. Domots, I don't know. And it does use SNMP, so it should be able to work. He's saying he is using a USG 310 with Domots with no issues. USG 310 is our non-Nebula security gateway. We actually have a lot of people using Nebula for the access point and switch management, and then still using our USGs because the USGs have a lot more functionality on the UTM side of things, a little bit more customizable. Okay, anything else? I'll give it a few more seconds here. Otherwise, I will end the meeting. But again, thank you guys for turning out. I really hope you found this beneficial. If you have some feedback for me, if there was something you didn't like, if there was something you'd like me to add for future webinars, feel free to email me directly. I'll be happy to take that feedback and try to improve for future. Again, it's Shawn R, SHAWNR @Zicel.com. Looks like no more questions, so I'll go ahead and end things here.